All right, good afternoon. I'll call to order this June 18th, 2025 Fairfield Plan and Zoning Commission special meeting. We only have one item in our executive session, 441 Post Road zoning compliance and coastal site plan application of 441 Post Road LLC for a 478 unit residential development pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes. Our decision deadline is June 21st. Ms. Harrigan.
I don't know if any of the commission members, based on the attendance that was provided, if they want to indicate that they have, they've reviewed the record and they're ready for deliberation for any
Yeah, I
of
was just
the
going through that
alternates.
myself. This was 3 days, 27th, 3rd, and 10th. Is there anybody that needs to say as much? Brenda?
I've reviewed, I'm not sure if I missed, I know we've had a few applications.
No, I
with
don't
this.
think you have. Looks like Newman,
did.
Corsillo,
I did rewatch
Harrison,
some of the hearings. I should be up to speed.
Ron, Levy, Randolph have all reviewed. We're all present. I guess it depends on who our alternate is going to be. But no, if Dan comes on, it's a matter of whether Dan has reviewed, Commissioner Ford has reviewed it. If not, then Commissioner Siebert was only at the first. Commissioner Delgado was at the second two. Commissioner Collins was not at the first. But let's go through comments, and then when Commissioner Ford comes on, we can ask him about his review.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. For 441 Post Road, the subject property is in an approximately 6.936 acre site that is located within the Design Residence District, the DRD zone. The property is located on the Post Road, State Route 1, and presently includes the Circle Diner and the 80-bed Circle Inn. Turney Creek borders the southwestern and southern side of the site. The eastern property boundary is shared with single-family residential properties located on Shoreham Village Drive. The proposal includes a 6-story, 478-unit residential buildings with a level of subterranean parking under the 830G statute. Oh, I don't think this is the right one. Let's see. Nope, this is not the right one that I sent you. Sorry. Let me just get to that one. The site is actually 2 buildings. I think I sent you the incorrect one today. My apologies. Let me just get that real quick.
I have the one that says 8-30G. That's the right one, isn't it?
It is. I think I sent you an incorrect one today, but I sent you the correct one when I sent you the item last week. I had it on a flash drive because I had to do it at home on a Saturday.
Oh.
So let me just pull that up real quick. My apologies.
So the one we got today, we should not be looking at, even though it says
Right.
8-30G. Okay.
Yeah, let me just get the one from Saturday, and then I'm happy to resend that to you. It's let's see.
Would you be able to resend it now so we could read along?
I am. Yes, I
That's
am.
great.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
The correct one's 478 units, correct?
That's correct, but it is 2 separate buildings. It's not one building. So I'm just going to send that really quickly. My apologies. Okay,
worries.
and
Thank
for
you.
this one that I just sent you, it has a table in it. That's how you know that it looks different.
Oh, that's
Okay.
what I have.
All right, so sorry, let me go back. The 830G proposal includes 2 6-story residential buildings. Building A contains 364 units, which wrap around the 592 space parking structure, which includes a level of subterranean parking and extends to the back of the site to the pool and patio amenity area, which is also located at the grade level. Building A also contains amenity meeting space, clubhouse, game room, fitness center, yoga room, cafe and lounge, golf simulator rooms, and a business center. Building B contains 114 units and is oriented towards the Post Road with 95 additional surface parking spaces to the side and the rear of the building. Building B amenities include a clubhouse, game room, and business center. This development provides a total of 687 spaces and a residential parking ratio of 1.44 per unit. Units are provided as follows. In Building A, there are 51 studios, 218 one-bedrooms, 95 two-bedrooms, again for a total of 364 units. 55 of those units will be provided at 60% AMI. 55 of those units will be provided at 80% AMI. Building B contains 11 studios, 65 one-bedrooms, 38 two-bedrooms for a total of 114 units. 17 of those units will be provided at 60% AMI, and 17 of those units will be provided at 80% AMI. The overall height for the building facing the post road is approximately 70 feet 8 inches, while the height facing towards the rear of the site is 82 feet. Per the 830G statute, 30% of the units or 144 of the units will be provided as deed restricted affordable. For a total of 72 units at 60% of the AMI and 72 units at 80% AMI. The units are equally distributed by unit size and throughout each of the buildings. Driveway access and site entry is off of the post road. The proposal keeps the existing driveway currently nearest to the Circle Diner that is adjacent to the old post road, but eliminates the second driveway and proposes a shared singular driveway with a shared motor court for both residential buildings. An interior access way provides access to the surface parking to the rear of the building B, as well as to the fire lane access to the back of the buildings. The applicant's experts have indicated that the WPCA has provided approval to connect to the town sewer and public water is available for the property. The stormwater system has been designed to provide water quality treatment for the proposed impervious areas of the site where none currently exists, but is not providing runoff attenuation detention due to the close proximity of the end of the watershed as permitted by the Connecticut DEP Stormwater Manual. This is a similar engineering approach used on other sites the board has approved, such as 81 Black Rock Turnpike and the Exide proposed Porsche site. Attorney Green had a licensed engineer review the drainage report, to which the applicant's engineer provided clarification and indicated that the system meets the town's requirements. The applicant's traffic consultant has determined that the proposed traffic volume generation does not negatively impact traffic congestion on the post road, and the proposal meets sightline by visibility distance requirements. The applicant intends to align the primary driveway of the project with the proposed jug handle realignment, subject to the town engineering review and Connecticut DOT approval. The Kings Highway Phase 3 roadway safety project is presently in design with the town of Fairfield, with construction completion anticipated in late 2026, early 2027. The applicant did indicate a delay for left turns out of the primary driveway at level of service F at 160 seconds, and they are amenable to limiting the driveways to right turn only movements. However, they indicated that ultimately this limitation is subject to DOT review and approval. The fire code analyst for the project indicated that the project includes a full interior sprinkler system for the proposed new buildings, and fire department access meets requirements with a reinforced grassy paver system that allows for access and turnaround at the back of the building. The landscape plan provides enhanced screening and vegetation over existing conditions and adds over 280 trees and 430 shrubs, as well as other perennials and grasses. 17 street trees are provided along the post road, as well as a mixture of evergreen and deciduous trees along the property boundaries along Shore and Village Drive in the upland areas of the site. The licensed soil scientists for the project confirmed that only tidal wetlands are present on the property, which triggers the coastal area management CAM review for the site in lieu of inland wetlands review. DEP commented that adjacent coastal resources, Turney Creek, are protected during the construction project, provided any approval is conditioned that adequate site mitigations such as soil erosion and sedimentation controls prior and throughout the sedimentation controls are required prior and throughout the construction period. A natural resources database review was also conducted, and it was determined by the applicant that many of the species of concern are in the downslope tidal marshland areas that are outside of construction disturbance areas. These would also be protected by adequate soil erosion and sedimentation controls. There was significant resident comment on the proposed project, both in person and by email, much of which was similar to the prior mixed-use project. Residents expressed concerns about the project's visibility from across Turney Creek, number of stories and height, the number of residential units resulting in increased trips and traffic generation, and potential impacts to the Turney Creek tidal marshlands and the Ash Creek estuary system. Directly adjacent neighbors have also expressed concern about potential blasting in conjunction with regrading the site. Several correspondents also expressed concern about the existing unsafe conditions of the Post Road Circle roundabout and the potential for increased accidents with more traffic and a general lack of pedestrian infrastructure. And concern about impacts to adjacent schools based on potential increase in number of students and overall impacts to the town's infrastructure. Residents also expressed concern about the potential for on-site inland wetlands soil without an inland wetlands review. See applicant expert comments previously referenced, and the significant delay for left-hand turns out of the primary driveway, which would lead to dangerous driving behavior by residents. As a reminder, due to the similarity of the traffic analysis, building arrangement, landscape design, construction mitigations, and the same stormwater design, the applicant has requested that the full record for the prior mixed-use application at this address be incorporated as part of this record, which includes information from both Attorney Fallon representing the applicant and Attorney Green representing adjacent neighbors. The commission is familiar with the standards for review of a denial of an affordable housing application, and those standards were discussed during the hearing. The burden shall be on the commission to prove that the decision is based on sufficient evidence in the record. The decision is necessary to protect a public interest in health, safety, or other matters within the commission's jurisdiction. Such interests clearly outweigh the need for affordable housing, and such public interests cannot be protected by reasonable changes to the proposed development. Court cases have indicated that the record must establish more than a mere possibility of harm to a substantial public interest. The record must contain evidence as to a quantifiable probability that a specific harm will result if the application is granted. Mere concerns alone do not amount to sufficient evidence to support the denial of an affordable housing application. And those are the comments that I have.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Commissioner
I
Randolph?
move to approve. I move to approve.
Oh, hold on one second. I see Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Ford, are you up to speed on this matter?
Yes,
Okay, I think that is everybody then. Okay. Commissioner Randolph has a motion to approve.
Move to
Commissioner
approve.
Randolph, is that it?
With conditions.
Okay, why don't you say the conditions so we,
Sure. So the following conditions are pertain to the driveway restrictions. The applicant shall work with CTDOT and the town engineer to implement a right turn only exit if feasible and approved by CTDOT. Emily and I can email these to you. Landscaping and screening. All proposed landscaping shall be installed as shown on the approved plans, including screening along Shoreham Village Drive and the Post Road. Number 3, ADA sidewalk ramp. The engineering department has requested the installation of an ADA compliant sidewalk ramp opposite the traffic island. And then I'm going to state this for the record, but these are not conditions, but they're inherent conditions that we often seem to get confused by. But in order to get a building permit, we need a CTDOT permit and an an approved erosion and sedimentation control plan. I'm not going to make those conditions because those are inherent conditions to approval for a building permit.
okay, so you just have the 3 conditions then.
Yes.
Right turn exit onto the Post Road. I guess subject to Connecticut DOT.
Yes, I'm going to email these to Emmeline right now.
No, I know, that's fine. I want them, just for people who are, for us now,
Oh, sure.
considering them.
Yeah, I'll restate them. Driveway restrictions, to implement a right turn only exit if feasible and approved by CT DOT because it's a state road.
Okay,
I have
Landscaping.
a question. for
hold
the
on. Let him
conditions.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Finish it.
Do we have a second
Let-
yet on this motion?
Oh, no, I'm asking, I'm trying to make sure that I understand the
Oh.
conditions.
Landscaping and screening. All proposed landscaping shall be installed as shown on the approved plans, including screening along Shoreham Village Drive and the Post Road. And then the installation of an ADA sidewalk ramp as requested by the engineering department opposite the traffic island.
For the landscaping, are you asking for anything additional beyond what they've given in their plans?
No.
Okay, that's what I want to understand. Okay. Is there a second to this? Second, Commissioner Levy raised his hand. Commissioner Randolph, Josephine is asking if you can send her a copy too, please, of the
I think
conditions.
we'll do. Yep.
Commissioner
Okay.
Levy's on mute if he was trying to
Yep,
say something.
thank you.
No,
Yeah,
I know,
and,
I saw his hand go up, so
Mhm.
asking for a second.
and perhaps a friendly amendment that it be either right turn only or a traffic signal to be determined by DOT.
Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Randolph.
So we have a second. So
Yes,
my
floor is yours.
so should I? Okay. My reasons for moving to approve are the following. The proposed development meets the requirements of 830G by providing 144 deed restricted affordable units representing 30% of the total units in the building. There's no substantial evidence in the record of a specific public health or safety risk that outweighs the need for affordable housing, which is the only reason we're permitted to reject this project under Connecticut state law. Nor has it been shown that any potential risks identified cannot be mitigated through reasonable conditions. Many concerns have been raised regarding the reduced level of service for the left turn movements onto the Post Road. While the level of service might be reduced, it's not a measure of safety. And I just want to emphasize that. It's not a measure of safety. It's a measure of traffic delay, slowing traffic. Both the CTDOT and the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the ITA, confirm that a reduction of LOS does not constitute a safety hazard. The applicant's traffic study demonstrates that the proposed access driveway meets all required sightline standards. Furthermore, the applicant has indicated a willingness to implement a right turn only exit. No expert testimony was presented to support a finding that traffic impacts pose a safety risk that can't be reasonably mitigated. The project also meets all applicable fire safety requirements, includes a sprinkler system, and maintains adequate access for emergency vehicles. The proposed stormwater management system complies with DEEP's Stormwater Quality Manual. It treats runoff from newly impervious areas and qualifies for exemption from detention due to the site's location near the watershed. The property secured sewer connections. The site lies in the coastal area management boundary, but only tidal wetlands are present, and these lie outside the construction area. DEEP found no significant adverse impacts. Soil erosion and sedimentation controls will be in place throughout construction. The applicant must obtain all necessary permits and approvals from CTDOT, including those related to access, encroachment, drainage, and coordinate with the planned Kings Highway realignment project. This application satisfies the requirements of 830G, and I just want to emphasize, I don't like this project. But this is not a question of whether I like it. I believe it's out of scale with its surroundings. It lacks the thoughtfulness that better planning could have produced. But personal opinions are not a lawful basis for denial. I wish they were. I don't like this project. Subjective objections, however well-intentioned, cannot override the statutory standard, the state law. It's our duty as commissioners to follow the law, and it would be irresponsible to reject this application based upon belief or aesthetics rather than the evidence in the record. That said, I would strongly encourage the neighbors to support the previously approved smaller project, which the developer stated they would prefer to build. It's more appropriately scaled, better suited to the area, and reflects greater planning sensitivity. However, in the matter before us, the commission finds no public interest that justifies denial and concludes that the project as conditions consistent with public health safety. However, I as a commissioner find no public interest that justifies denial and concludes that the project as condition is consistent with public health, safety, and environmental standards, which is the criteria for approval or rejection.
Thank you. Commissioner Levy?
Yes, thank you. I concur with the excellent summary by Commissioner Randolph and his points. In terms of this project and safety concerns, the opposition's expert agreed that making the exit onto the post road a right turn only ameliorated any concerns as to that safety issue, even though he did still feel, as we all do, that the project is too big. That did address the concern that some had as to the left turn. So based upon that, there is insufficient evidence of any substantial risk to public health and safety. And pursuant to 830G, I feel that the need for affordable housing outweighs any concerns for public health and safety as applied to this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun?
I was first in
Oh,
line.
I'm sorry, Q was next. You go next. That's okay. I don't
Just a
wanna-
question to
Commissioner
Mr.
Har-
Randolph's condition. The right turn only feasible and approved by the DOT. What if it's not approved by DOT?
Commissioner
what
Randolph.
I'm
do
sorry,
you propose?
I'm muting, sorry. So if it's not approved by the DOT, then they can make a left turn out.
But then that's, in my opinion, unsafe.
But I'm sorry,
Well, that's-
I'm deferring to the Connecticut Department of Transportation to make that assessment rather than I, who am very experienced with traffic engineering. I'm not going to make that assessment. I'm not qualified, but I am very experienced with traffic engineering. I'm deferring to licensed professional traffic engineers to determine the safety of that. As authorized by the state and as required because we're adjoining a state road. So that's the law.
Okay, I don't need lectures on what the law is. I heard you. Thank you.
I'm not lecturing the law. I'm telling you my reasoning.
Go ahead. Commissioner Harrison, did you want the floor or did you just have that question?
That was my one question. Thank you.
I wrote down some
Commissioner Braun,
comments
go ahead.
just to save time and be efficient. So I'll address stormwater. Okay, first of all, we do have experts on the other side. They weren't really detailed very much, so I'm going to detail them now. We had a stormwater expert who's an expert in low impact development, LID. Mr. Trinkhaus, he lectures all over the world on this, and he's a certified expert on LID. This is not LID. This is not low impact development stormwater. This is not an adequate system. There was not adequate testing. There was not adequate design. So I'll just read my comments. This will not adequately reduce non-point source pollution loads, which will result in increased pollutants being discharged into the coastal ecosystem. Especially nitrogen will have an adverse impact and kill tidal grasses. The design does not comply with the DEP 2024 Stormwater Quality Manual. The erosion and sediment control plan is not in compliance with the DEP 2024 Soil and Erosion and Sediment Control Guidelines. There will be no treatment of the runoff from the roof of the apartment building. The atmospheric deposits of nitrogen and phosphorus will adversely impact the wetland, which is off-site, but it is something that could be impacted. And we are responsible for protecting that wetland, even though it's off-site. That's a tidal wetland. The overflow capacity is smaller than what they state in their infiltrator systems, which will result in pollutants being not being cleansed adequately and ending up in Ash Creek. which is a tidal water body, which is currently under all kinds of programs with combined state, federal, and local to restore some of the wetlands and the sand spit out there just downstream of here. The infiltration rates calculations are wrong. They were not done with adequate field infiltration testing. They were also done using sandy loam instead of silt loam, which they said is what exists there, which means that it will flow out slower and it will infiltrate slower, and therefore the system will overflow, and what overflows does not get treated. That level spreader on the downhill side does not treat it. It just moves the water around so it doesn't go all out in one place. Wildlife, there are 7 listed species, which came up in both applications, this one and the prior one, which have not really been dealt with. Just very sparse comments were made. But those are species that our state DEP has indicated require special protections. And they reside just off-site in the tidal wetland area. I'm going to just go into the CAM review, which I don't know if we're on yet, but I might as well talk about it because it has to do with environmental issues. So the CAM report, in my opinion, coastal site management does not take a back seat to 8-30G. They're both remedial statutes intended to fix a problem. So when we do coastal site plan review, we are supposed to protect the environmental resources, our coastal resources. That is not being done here. I'll just go through some of my notes. I'm not sure what application the DEP looked at, but in this one, they have a few misnomers. First of all, they say there are inland wetlands on site. Whether there are or not, I don't know. When the applicant's expert said he dug in the tidal wetlands. Of course, tidal wetlands are not inland wetlands. He did not indicate if he attempted to see if there were inland wetlands anywhere else on the site. And the only way you know, I took the wetlands training course. The only way you know if there are inland wetlands is by digging with an auger. So in my opinion, it's an open question. Our DEP has said there are inland wetlands on the site. There's no inland wetland permit. We don't know. That's an open question. But also the DEP said that they're reducing the impervious surface. We know that's not true. They're adding almost an acre of impervious surface. They also indicated that this improves the stormwater plan, the stormwater treatment. How can it? Right now, there's much less impervious surface. There's water that flows over lawn and more of a natural area. So I don't understand that conclusion either. The DEP also pointed out a 15-foot vegetative buffer, whereas elsewhere on the DEP website, as well as other experts, 2 other experts have indicated in a tidal wetland area, the buffer is recommended to be about 100 feet. So I don't know how DEP can say 15 feet is adequate. So I'm discarding the DEP report. I'm not sure what they looked at, but I don't think they went to the site. I don't think they adequately looked at what's going on this site. And we need to do a better job of getting outreach to DEP. We've heard on the prior application, which has now been incorporated to this application, that there are a myriad of species, maybe not all listed by the DEP as being special concern, threatened, or endangered, but this is a migratory stopover, significant. And we have not heard anything about an 80-foot tall building facing out to the marsh with windows and noise. We have not heard the impact of that on these species. So basically, my conclusion is that the CAM report, that this does not satisfy our job to protect coastal resources. This is an area that is not really appropriate for coastal, for public access because it's a marsh. So they have a little walkway and a place to sit down and look at the marsh. That's fine. That's all you need for that. But the other aspect of what coastal site plan review is to protect our coastal resources. This does not do it. The stormwater system is not adequate. It's not adequately tested. It's not justified. It is not proven to work. And if it doesn't work, we can't approve it. I believe when there's evidence in here that shows that the non-point source pollution will go into the tidal water body, that's what we need. I don't think we have to show that harm to our environmental resources supersedes the need for affordable housing. I believe that stands on its own. That's a remedial statute. And if it fails coastal site plan review, then we should not approve this project. I'll just briefly go into traffic. There's a traffic engineer that the neighbors hired as well. And he pointed out a bunch of things which we're all familiar with, which came up in the prior application as well, which is the upper lot will go from an F to who knows what, F minus G, X, bad, very bad, almost 3 minutes, I think. And he also opined that yes, serious delays in service level are considered safety hazards. So this project, as designed, will cause a safety hazard. We've heard many fact-based witnesses testifying about all kinds of problems. I myself had 2 personal injury files on this intersection, people that had accidents at the merge areas. So us putting a condition of approval to reroute traffic down to the old post road is not accurate. That has not been tested, has not been analyzed, it has not been reviewed. The way this project is designed is unsafe. It needs to be rejected on that basis alone. We cannot then say, well, why don't we just throw a dart at the wall and see if you can move it somewhere else? That's not going to solve the problem. There's no analysis that was done. We don't know who comes out of the old post road or how this would merge. There also was not review of where it does merge farther up along the traffic circle, so that we cannot be responsible for allowing an unsafe condition and just throwing a condition on there saying, do this, we don't know if it'll work. I don't think that's something we should be required to do. I also have doubts about the amount of trip generation. By my calculation, there are 611 bedrooms, and there could be a lot more dens. There could be over 600 people living here. I find it hard to believe only 150 cars will leave in the morning at rush hour. Also, our job is to make sure something works, whether it's stormwater that doesn't create to the pollution, add to the pollution problems, or whether it's traffic. So we don't wait for the town engineer to say, when we review something for a building permit, we'll solve your problem, or for DOT sometime in the future to do something. What if they don't do it? Well, then we're approving an unsafe project. So based on those issues, we cannot do that. This cannot be approved the way it's been designed. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the commission? Commissioner
I can jump in.
Porcel.
I'll try not to repeat too many of the comments that Commissioner Randolph made, but the public record for the mixed use application, as Ms. Harrigan noted, has been incorporated into the public record for this application. So I'll make a couple of references to that. I found that the mixed use application satisfied the standard conditions for approval, and in most respects, this application, while larger in size, has similar impacts. The 2 primary areas of concern most relevant to the consideration of this 830G application are the stormwater management and traffic. This commission already found that the stormwater management plan for the mixed use application was satisfactory, and the current application represents a 4.6% reduction in impervious surface compared to that application, with essentially the same stormwater management plan. Concerns about the soil drainage that were raised are not grounds for denying the application. The town engineer said that even if there are drainage issues with the soil, which has not been confirmed, permeability, quoting his June 3rd, the town engineer's June 3rd email, permeability field testing will resolve any issue, end quote, related to that, including the replacement of some areas of existing soils if needed. And additionally, on the stormwater piece of this, the opponent's experts' criticism of the stormwater plan was largely based around its assertion that the plan does not meet DEEP standards. And it appears that in at least some cases, that's inaccurate. But the applicant's not required to meet those standards. And the opponent's expert criticizes the very standards he insists the applicant must meet, calling into question the validity of DEP standards in certain cases, while in other cases insisting the applicant meet those standards. So I found that comment a bit bizarre, and that it undermined his insistence that the applicant follow those standards. The other main concern was traffic. The vehicular trips projected to be generated by this project, I didn't find represent a threat to public health or safety, but I do find the opponents raised a valid concern about a threat to health and safety posed by the substantial increase in wait time for vehicles turning left out of the primary site egress for this application compared to the mixed use application. I don't know if that rises to the level that it would be grounds to deny the application, but I do find that the argument was compelling. ITE does recognize that substantial delays at unsignalized intersections increase risky driver behavior, which I think is also common sense to anyone who has spent a significant period of time at a red light, and that could threaten public safety. I will say that several neighbors suggested it's not this commission's job to solve deficiencies in applications such as this, but that is not correct, fortunately or unfortunately. When it comes to 830G applications, the courts have said very much is this commission's job to find those solutions. To the extent the evidence in the record demonstrates a probability of specific threat to public health or safety, this commission has a legal obligation to impose reasonable changes to the project to address those threats where possible, rather than denying outright. Commissioner Randolph included as a condition of approval the elimination or signal of the left turn out or signalizing that intersection. The applicant's expert, the opponent's expert testified on June 3rd that it is his professional opinion that eliminating the left turn out of the East Drive would eliminate the severe threat to public safety. And I understand the concern Commissioner Braun raised about, what happens with throwing darts at the wall, I think was the phrase used, but with the opponent's expert testifying that eliminating the left turn out eliminates the severe threat to public safety, there is no longer evidence in the record of a quantifiable probability of harm from that intersection. And so I think with that being the primary source of potential threat to public health or safety being addressed by a condition put on this project, I do not find that there is any grounds legally to deny this application. Thank you.
Commissioner Braun, before we get back to you, I'll see if anybody else wants to speak first.
Yeah, I have a few comments.
Commissioner Harrison, go ahead.
Yeah, and I do appreciate the thoughtful comments by my fellow commissioners. I do just want to touch base on this, and I know this is probably not relevant, but I think it's worth mentioning. This is the plan B for the applicant. We know that they want to have the one that was previously approved by this commission. So I wonder why they are even going through this exercise. And one thing that wasn't brought up was there's actually an eviction pending now with the diner, and that was never stated on the record during the first app. So there's a little mistrust here, or misleading with the applicant. They said that the diner was always going to be part of the vision, but now there's an eviction there. So there's a little mistrust here on really what they want and what they're really doing. I do have issues with the traffic. I don't think the traffic is not going to be fixed by rerouting all 150 cars between those hours noted to the Old Post Road entrance. That hasn't really been studied or analyzed. Stormwater, they did not go through adequate testing. The stormwater system, I don't think will work, and those pollutants will enter Ash Creek, which is tidally influenced water body that supports different species listed with the state DEP. I do want to go back to traffic, because that is, I think we're all concerned about safety streets in Fairfield, and I think our town is addressing many of those issues. But this report, based on I think it was Barbaras, the neighbors expert, this is basically the same project that has the same problem that we noted a few months ago. The left turn on the top of the egress is already an F, and it's only going to get worse. The average delay, I think it's going to be increased. I think they said 179.3 seconds per exiting vehicle. Moving the exit down to the Old Post Road won't address this problem. So I do think that would cause harm to the neighborhood and cause public safety issues. Just a few more notes. And I appreciate Mr. Randolph's condition of approval, but I just don't think you can put a condition of approval if you don't know if it's going to work or not. We don't know what the DOT will say. I don't think we should rely on a future action by DOT that may not happen, or maybe it will happen. So those are my statements. I don't want to repeat what some of the comments that Commissioner Braun made, but I think the stormwater issues, the traffic, are certainly going to, proceed with a very hazardous area. I do wish the development well. I do hope something is there. I know something will, something will be there, and I think that's what we all want. But I just think this is just too big. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, do you have, or do you want me to jump in?
I just briefly, I prefer the hotel or their option A. I voted for that. I'm not going to vote no on this either. I don't like it. But I think you've all heard me say on previous applications, elections have consequences. And I think the town of, the people of Fairfield have spoken. They had a chance to change who we send to Hartford. They didn't do it. It's a major platform in Hartford right now, as we've seen recently, and some legislative changes that might be coming down. So I'm not going to belabor my point and sound like a broken record. I pretty much say the same thing every time. So I'm going to support it. I don't think it rises to the level of denial. And I think if we did deny it, we'd likely lose an appeal in court. And I would just say, as an aside, as I was thinking about the project and the property, I've never met the developer, but it seems, he really kind of took a chance, because I think this development, the hotel was really going to go south. It was going to, I think it was headed towards, if anyone remembers, the Bridgeport Motor Inn at the bottom of the exit of Black Rock Turnpike. I think it was headed that direction. And this guy stepped in. I guess he bought it, renovated it, made it, what it is today, which isn't the greatest used. And but I think he deserves some credit for that. And and finally, I think so foreseeable, as we've discussed in the last application, that this property would be redeveloped on some basis, whether this project or, as I said, the preferable hotel option. But for those reasons, I'm going to reluctantly support the application.
Commissioner Braun?
Yes, I was just going to say, we ignore our tidal resources at our peril. We need 100 feet, not 15 feet. This will destroy not just the water quality because of inadequate stormwater remediation, but also the ability of the tidal wetlands to migrate landward. And that is something that's happening all over the place. We should not be allowing development anywhere near a tidal wetland. They get literally drowned. They need a certain amount of salinity, and they drown as the sea level rises. And the DEP has predicted the sea level will rise 20 inches by 2050. They have nowhere to go. And since we're developing within 15 feet, they will just be eliminated, along with all the ecological services they provide forever, a big chunk of which is flood control. So we cannot approve something like this. Again, as I said before, we are responsible for protecting our coastal resources. No one else is. DEP delegates to us. They only get involved if we dig into the tidal wetland. We're not doing that here. We're doing something that will harm the tidal wetland, and we shouldn't be doing that. As far as traffic, that's been belabored enough, but you cannot say a condition of approval that has not been tested will work. We should not. That is not what our state legislature wanted us to do 35 years ago when they passed this law. They did not expect us to go blind and just throw conditions out there to approve something when something else is clearly going to be unsafe. So for both those reasons, we cannot approve this, and it should be scaled back. That's something we should be doing. We should take a few floors off, move it farther away from the coastal resource, and find a way to manage the traffic going into the traffic circle without relying on some future project or decision that another agency we have no control over may or may not do. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll be supporting the application with the conditions as stated. Importantly, the condition with the traffic is the reasonable accommodation that is needed to address the potential, or I think to be probably a potential harm of public health and welfare and safety with the delay going out. The delay going out, taking that left on the post road seemed to be the pivotal issue as to traffic, and traffic zone was asked several times of the opposition's traffic expert, would this satisfy it? And his answers were yes. And that was even during the conversation, Attorney Green was trying to rehabilitate it with what about downhill effects and this and that. And I found the traffic expert, the opposition's traffic expert, to be clear, you do the right-hand turn and it satisfies in his mind the concern, the safety concern. So I don't think that's throwing a dart blindly at the wall. We're using what was presented in the evidence to make a reasonable accommodation that we are required statutorily to make. I can't emphasize that enough because that was brought up by a neighbor that somehow we are, just rubber stamping this because we're trying to find solutions when it's a statutory obligation of us to try and find a reasonable accommodation, which we did. And I don't believe that's blindly taking as what the effects are. I mean, even Commissioner Braun said, scale it back, knock floors off. Well, will that satisfy? How do you know that will satisfy the concerns that you raised? So, here we are, we're trying our best to, find the reasonable accommodations that we need by our statutory obligations. And, I think Commissioner Braun in opposition will, when they say scale it back without the testing needed, find themselves in the same critiques that they throw against the motion at this point. And the main problem I think I have with the stormwater management and environmental is we're imposing regulations and standards that are not, we're imposing standards that are not in our regulations. We have DEP sign off with respect to CAM. Our town engineer has right now approved the design of what the stormwater drainage will be. And to sit and require certainty at this point when the building hasn't occurred yet is unreasonable, impractical, and impossible. Because even if you had sufficient, even they tested 100 different places, unless you're expecting them to build the thing before they come to us, which I don't think anybody wants or should expect. Anytime you open up the ground to make the drainage, something can happen at that point. So, there's always somewhat of an uncertainty, certainly less than 100% uncertainty at this point, because it's not built. And we rely upon engineering to ensure that it will work. He has provided the opinion that at this point he is satisfied. And should something arise at the time when it's built, it will be addressed at that time, which is to be expected. And I think any standard that's been proposed by the neighbor's opposition expert or in this commission, they're standards that are not adopted by regulations by this commission. And the court on Beach Road, which we are familiar with, was pretty clear. Commission cannot hold applicant to standards that are not found in the regulations or evenly applied to properties. I mean, that's the Superior Court and the Beach Street decision. So, and that was where we were dealing with the sightline issue, which I would have thought was as bright line standard of safety that we could have in this state, and they criticized us for that. I brought that up at the time with Attorney Green, and we had a back and forth on that. So, we don't have a blank check or carte blanche, so to speak, to protect the areas that we want to protect. We are a limited body that are bound by regulations, and we have to remember that. Much to the point that we want to make sure that we're fulfilling our obligations in the best way that we can. So having said that, I agree with Commissioner Corsillo. I do think that the level of service, the delay can be considered a safety issue in some instances. I did some research on it. It seems somewhat split on the matter as far as what I was reading and when I was reading it, but it just seems like context and reason, and from depending on the context and common sense, that a delay in service can be a safety issue. So if you take that, and I think the condition for either the right turn or the stoplight satisfies that. And the problem here is it's a state highway that we really lack jurisdiction over. So I think the condition properly balances what we want versus the ultimate decider on that issue being the state and the state controlling the state road. So for all those reasons, I feel obliged to support the application. Anything further? If everybody can go off mute, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favor of the motion with the conditions as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
I think that's Commissioners Corsillo, Randolph, Ford, and Levy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
All opposed? Say aye,
Opposed.
please.
Opposed. Harrison.
Yeah, Commissioner Harrison
Opposed.
opposed. So, thank you again, as usual, for the very thoughtful and professional discourse.
Thank you.
That being the only item, I will adjourn the hearing. Have a good day, rest of the week, everyone.
Thank you. You too.